welcome to the Won Tawnn Show. It is me, Won Tawnn, and today we are giving Fall Girl pumpkin patch vibes, okay? And we are having an authentic conversation about checking in with your needs and asking for what you need, okay? And I've said before, it's important because as I keep repeating, Khloe Kardashian on her podcast, how she mentioned if you keep telling a child to be quiet enough, they're going to learn to just be quiet, that what they have to say doesn't matter. So imagine what that says about our needs. A lot of us are constantly, especially as people growing up in churches and as women, you know, we are taught to constantly give and nurture other people and about their needs, but not ever think to ask ourselves, like, what do I need right now? And I think that speaks to a lot of people's unhappiness, especially in relationships, because if you're not asking, you're expecting other person to know your needs when you don't even ask yourself, what do I need? And taking the time to think about that and digest that, and all that just builds up in you, okay? And so, and also Jay Shetty said on his podcast too that, that he checks in with himself, making sure out of that self-love and self-care, like, what do I need? And then he has with his marriage, his wife, and the things that they discuss and go on with, so so it's like, no matter what the situation is, you as a person, your needs matter. That's just establishing your own self-worth and your own esteem of self. Shout out to Whitney Harlow. Yeah. The esteem of self. Okay? Which is the regard that you hold yourself in. So if you're constantly making, neglecting your own needs and never asking, what do I need? You know, and these things all sound really simple when you have conversations and put them into words. I think it's just sad that these conversations aren't had, because how can people know, you know, they're all just trying to get by. They're all just trying to get along and not go through another problem. And so it's like, but when things are brought to people's attention and spoken to their ears, you know, it really shifts perspectives and realities. Taking care of yourself, drastically like that, after all that self-neglect, that can change a lot in your life. That can change a lot in the world around you and your family's lives. But as I've been discussing, my self-growth journey and my learning, and how I've been unpacking years and layers of emotions and really processing this new reality from a different perspective. It's just like these are the nuggets, the conversations that pop out at you, and you're like, wow, like because it really can change your whole thought process. And if people treated themselves that much kinder and full of care, imagine the ripple effect that would have on the world at large. I'm just like, because basically people are all upset because they feel like they're not heard and that their needs don't matter, and so they get angry or they get sad or they just become a void avoid everything, you know? And it's really sad. That's no way that we shouldn't be living such a harsh experience on this earth. Like, is that what the world is? Is that what you all want it to be? People that like to argue, they'd be like, ah, sure, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, you can't argue with the fact that we all deserve a lighter reality and a kinder world. I mean, if you do, I don't know. I guess you just want to, like, what do you want? You know, to be dead already? I don't, because I don't really. I mean, those people are dead inside, but what do you do? But I found out, like I was saying earlier, I did find out it is a Libra new moon. And we had used the Libra eyeshadow last night, okay? Libra new moon, okay? Just like when down the rabbit hole and then watching, you know, Holly Madison's episode on the Kiki Palmer podcast and diving into all that. When you get in tune and you start walking in alignment and seeing signs and like taking them, you know, in your own meanings, things really just sort of connect and fall into place with each of those steps that you take. Like, you have to choose to believe it or get inspiration from it. But when you put it all together, sometimes it just really creates like a mosaic. But what the point is okay, so checking in with yourself and asking yourself, what are my needs? What do I need? And then asking for what you need. So I think a lot of, like, for me, I know that can be scary because, a lot of times people who have only known emotionally abusive people or had narcissistic relationships around, you know what I'm saying? Like, people make you afraid, like it's a bad thing, like you can't ask and say what you need or you'll be in trouble. And that's what, and I would just like to say that literally it says God's love is perfect. It drives out fear because fear has to do with punishment. And another thing I was thinking about on my walk, I was like, well, first of all, the stars were beautiful. But I was thinking, it's just really sad getting back to how we kind of how Holly had discovered she had autism, and then me going through that whole conversation with y'all about, not knowing where I lie on that. But thinking about, and then all those kids out there in the world that who knows, because a lot of them are just neglected. They get no, emotional stimulation or attention. And then they go to school and they want to talk, and then they get in trouble for talking. That was the case with me. And so just think about all those kids out there, and that's why they want to put all these kids on ADHD medication and stuff, because they, like, they don't get, because parents are watching TV or on this stuff at home, so these kids grow up wanting to talk to someone, and instead they're placed in front of screens. So they don't learn to communicate, not like, and then that's what makes me mad, though, is people want to put that on the children and be like, these kids and the iPads. Like, it is the families and the parents, and usually it passed down from the generations, because my grandmother had even said her parents never talked to her growing up until she started dating and meeting boys. And that's how a lot of it is. A lot of parents are just checked out, and it comes at all. It comes at all. It doesn't matter, a two-parent household, one-parent household, like, money, no money, like, and when I say it doesn't matter, I mean parents can be checked out, into their own worlds at any socioeconomic level. Okay. And it's that need of emotional development and social development. And so they stick them in front of screens and stuff, right? They don't ever get to know their child and help them develop that internal and relational dialogue. And then they go to school and then they're like they get in trouble for talking too much. And then if they and then so say they have, so that's going on, say that they have undiagnosed autism or whatever the case may be, because nobody's really paying attention. They're just the child's just a body and a child, and that depends on everybody and needs to please them or meet their expectations, right? So say that this child is a fidgeter, like, constantly, I would constantly tap my pens and pencils. You get in trouble for that. They're constantly shaking their leg. My older brother did that. You get in trouble for that. All these things and needs, and mind you, school, they're putting these kids from 5 to 18. You're stuck in like a prison room building, no sunlight except for maybe 30 minutes or an hour, with being told what to do, being controlled in your body and your mind, and you're put around these people that maybe they're antagonistic, maybe they're just, not right. And everybody comes from different homes and backgrounds. And so these people are just forced to interact with each other and have energies over the next however many years. It's just such a concept. And then the teachers are underpaid and, have their own lives. Most of them are apathetic, or that's at best. And the ones that are good, I'm sure, eventually, hey, Big M, thank you for the friendship necklace and the finger hearts. But it just really, now I say all this to say though, that when you really look into these things like that and just hear this, you see how, and this goes from just asking yourself needs. I said, what is the ripple effect on that, right? So what is the ripple effect if people realize this about the education system and child development? Okay. If people just took their time to even, to have that discussion and process that, or, I think the world would be a lot kinder to one another and to families and teachers and just human beings. Okay? So so that's why it's important though to check in with yourself and your needs, okay? And ask for what you need. And not learn to ask. And that's what I was going to go into next is, I didn't know. I started to get really bad anxiety and angry because I was like, what do you mean? Because it's this one specific app, the only one that, I get kind of advice from, and it's about unlearning your old patterns and about healing them and moving forward. And so it gets me frustrated a lot. Okay. Frustrated a lot. But it was telling me that, you may think that just because your emotional level, your emotional intelligence level, and the way you read into things, or, what do they call it? Like the way you, read between the lines, the way you read between the lines and read emotional cues and stuff, nuances, that doesn't mean everybody understands what you're saying. That doesn't mean that they get it. And so for me, so I got really, so it said, ask directly for what you need and be direct. And so that made me really mad. Really mad. Because I was like, well, what, the only, like, well, I was mad because I have a lot of needs. I have a lot of needs that no one, I never thought to. It started with, again, Jay Shetty and me thinking to ask myself, like, what do I need? And that made me sad when I asked myself that, because, there's a lot of answers there. And I don't know how to give myself a lot of those things. And so, well, that's where God comes in, right? That's where God comes in. But then, so that's why this made me angry, that it said you need to be more direct and call in and tell people what you need. Because I'm like, who's, the only times I have shared that, people, like, it's been from poor dating relationships, poor family relationships, and the people that I went to for help, they didn't understand and told me, that it was my fault and that I wasn't doing something right, and that I needed to do it this way or do it that way, or basically fix myself. So it's like I had all of these different relationships, and then being told, if I just fix myself, if I just do this, if I just work out, if I just get a job, if I just go do this routine, if I just wake up at this time, if I just have these type of friends, if I just date this type of person, if I just go here at this time, like, that is a horror story. That's an American Horror Story, okay? Um, and I know I'm not the only person that has felt that or experienced that, because we all are constantly told, like, if you're not, if something, a lot of people don't ever unpack and process all of those different things. We spend time covering those past wounds and emotions, and then if we, then we feel guilty, and just the fear, guilt, and shame that is pushed, okay, and makes everybody feel like they need to constantly fix themselves or be a certain way, or be a certain type of person. And that, it goes with all of the comparison and the constant in your face of others' lives, and also all of the shame and nastiness put out there, and the lack of respect and love and kindness in this world. It all goes together, and it's very, very much Thriller. Okay? And I've been playing that song, and I'll play it again, but it really, if you go listen to it and watch the music video, okay? So calling in what I need. And it was also frustrating. It was also frustrating because I feel like, like I said, one of the things I started doing this year to really get myself out of the old and put myself in the new and move forward, and be a content creator and a streamer. I got frustrated because I started sharing sharing different things on Instagram public or IG publicly, and not all products are my own content, but like also self-growth, self-healing, things I saw that I resonated with or that I learned or that literally helped me learn through this whole process, you know? And so I share everything on there. It's pretty awesome. Definitely go follow. Okay? But it frustrated me because I felt like I was reclaiming these spaces as well, right? That's what led me up to each piece of growth that I have had on my online presence and my own space and creating my own space. Like, that has been a huge effort on my part to empower myself and reclaim space and to let go of all of the judgment and words of others, and to reject the negativity and keep doing what I want to do and what I believe I'm called to do, and what's best for me and also what makes me happy. Okay, not just cowering in fear and constantly being like, oh, but this person's gonna think, oh, because you know what, so that's what, my most authentic life started, that reclaiming my spaces, being public, sharing that information, taking each step forward on my path as a streamer and a content creator, and as a person healing and sharing my art and feelings and learnings. Okay, so I'm like, I've been doing all this publicly in the last year, and being told that I'm not being direct enough, and that I'm expecting people to read nuances, like, because nobody said anything. The only people that said stuff were like either people that needed to learn, like, older adults and parents and people that needed to learn and hear these things too, whether that's because they, and they would be like, yes, yes, you're so right. And it's like, doesn't know you know the type of person you are. Okay, like, the lack of self-awareness and the amount of denial and gaslighting is insane. And then the rest of the people just living their life. So and a lot of it was me also continuing to move forward and let go of old things that just weren't good for me. But all that being said, I've shared a lot of personal things, and you would think that more people, like people that have known you your whole life and were supposed to be role models or guides or mentors, like, you would think they would have something to say or realize, like, but no. Like, yeah, again, it just really is sad that, children and teenagers grow up and they're brought into this world, and they're there, and their families and people that have these small mindsets or these unpacked traumas, they're allowed to just tell this kid, like, you're this, you're a problem, you're a burden. and then everybody else just pile on them, and then they have to go through schooling. You know, they have to take on all these things, and then go out in the world and what? And that was funny too. I mean, earlier today, the passage I had read in the Bible today, it literally said, why labor away at what doesn't please you? Why, you know, you know what? Let me not misquote. Like, not me pulling it out, but I really don't want to misquote that. But you know what I'm saying? That's just another one of those verses that it's like, where did they miss out on sharing this? Why don't they ever go to this one when they want to argue with people and here and there and online, you know? Oh, why spend money on what is not bread and your labor on what does not satisfy? And your labor on what does not satisfy. And I think, ooh, so physically, yeah, but I think one of the biggest words I learned this year was emotional labor. Emotional labor. And that's something that people do not care for or put in consideration. And that's why there are a lot of sad marriages, and I think people get so they want to protect that, right? They don't want to talk, like, don't talk about my marriage, this is my man, this is my wife. Like, it's all about control, and like, God forbid anybody says any, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all this like tension and force and control and restriction just to feel like you have something. And that's what a lot of this world is. What? I wear a paddock because I don't do facades. It's one of my favorite rap lines. It really is. Um, and that makes me mad though, because again, people have, that sounds like a blaming thing, right? When you talk about marriage and somebody's relationship. But I don't want, again, fear, blame, shame, all those are from the devil. Okay. Shout out to Tawnydenton. Okay. But it's more than just marriages. These are families. These are human beings. These are people that live in communities and go to work, and like, they are moms, dads, they are your neighbor. They, like, they're us. We are the human beings, you know? So it's like, okay, there is no, TikTok was trying to tell me about background noise. Oh, it's me. Okay. But that's what I was getting to, was the emotional well-being of human beings. And the equality, when we talk about equality, I'm talking like literally. And that's another thing that always made me mad too, because again, with like religion, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, that whole weight of that in life, um being unequally yoked. Well, that didn't mean about religion. It meant about the care, the love for one another. And so we see those imbalances all the time in dating relationships. And so, going back to your needs, like, a lot of people that never ask their needs, they're constantly giving to their partner, or it's one way or the other. And that can be in control or in love. And so that equality of love and care, like, I've heard a lot of angry people want to be like, oh, equal this, equal that, and remember, we're all equal, right? Because they have mommy issues, or whatever the case may be. Just bitterness. But equality is equal care, equal support, equal love, okay? So that you're not doing just unnecessary or piled on emotional labor, okay? Now, oh, I'm glad I got all that out of the way. Not out of the way, but I'm glad that we got to discuss that, because I feel like these topics, these are the kind of, these are the kind of things that I've been learning and diving into, and that have been opening my eyes to the kind of life I want, which was, here we go, me calling in my needs and talking about my needs and what I want, okay? And so like I said, I didn't know how to do that or ask other people for that or tell other people, with a positive mindset, or with the understanding that I deserve to receive love and support and equal care, okay? And so freaking I asked the AI. I stay asking the AI, okay? I stay asking the AI questions, Now you have to have, again, you can't just, because it's not right about everything, but it helps your mind like get feedback and put it into sense for yourself, okay? So don't just rely on it and take all of its answers, because that thing, I mean, it is a robot, okay? But it does give you other narratives that is impartial, And so, um, it's just like, yeah, that's what it said. Okay, so I was real mad, right? And looking at the conversation now, okay, so yeah, so I need a lot of things, but yeah, I'm learning to speak my needs out loud. Today I need all these things, but yeah, so with me in streaming, like I am learning to speak my needs out loud, and I do need support and encouragement and playful energy and comfort and fun, but not so much pressure, just you know I liked that it said have everyone drop an emoji for whatever they're feeling like, or their favorite emoji, or you know but for the Libra new moon, what I want to manifest, yes, it literally, yeah, thank you for witnessing me. I am allowed to need. I am allowed to be held. You know, I'm realizing I need witness right now, and I want to name that. I'm not sure how to say this perfectly, but I'm feeling discouraged. But I love for the chat to hype me up, Like, I want this community, like, we are a community. We are the Won fam, like, you know? I just want everyone to be able to come as they are and be whoever they are, and not it be about pressure, having to act a certain way or do certain things, but just that flow of care and support and positive vibes and truth. ideas, creativity, playing around, all the things. But yeah, I'm learning to speak up even when no one asks, because that's what it was basically like. I didn't, I never thought about my needs because unless somebody asked me, like, well, and did anyone ever ask me? No. No one's ever asked me what I needed. So that's probably why I got so angry and upset and had like physical reaction to that. Yeah. And I think that just goes back to, emotional abuse, being told you're a burden and a problem and you need to please certain people to get care or be good enough to be cared for. And no one ever asks you, what do you need? But then they want you to spend your whole life trying to impress them or please them or do something for them or satisfy them. And if you don't, they make you feel like you're worthless or you're a loser or you did something wrong and it's like, that's your spirit in both ways, in both people. That's your spirit. You're a human being. These are human beings. We are souls. And think about how selfish. And that's what people, it starts with the enabling from the older generation, how they, enabled abusers and people to get by because if they had looks or money, it was okay. And that just leveled down into children and grandchildren and people that learn those same things. And so people feel you have to look a certain way or wear certain clothes to be cared for and worthy and loved. I remember, again, I've been doing a lot of this healing and forgetting to the past, but this person back in the day knew them or, whatever. And they had told this girl that her life was worth less because she had a pair of $500 shoes and you didn't. And then this girl went on to reality shows and people are like, oh, she's an angel. And it's like, again, it has nothing to do, and I realized this through everything, it has nothing to do with the specific person. It really doesn't. When you get into these things, you realize it is the spirits and the learned behaviors and the learned wordings and how we speak to one another. That is what matters. The things we care about, the things that we stand up for, the things that, that we choose not to be afraid of anymore, the kind of people we want to be. That is what changes mindsets and wordings and shows people that they are loved and they are worthy and that, this world is made for more. So, with that being said, under this Libra new moon, okay, I am calling in, well, it said about relationships, like call in what you want. Well, all types of relationships. So Libra is about relationships, right? So that's friendships, family, dating, okay? What kind of relationships do we want, okay? And I think, like, I know that I want and I need a receptive and present partner. And in this, that's what makes, like, that. I feel like those are bare minimum things. When I thought that was so unique. Wow. Because how sad is that? And when I shared that with, again, an older person, they were like, they scoffed at it and acted like I was asking for too much. I think that bare minimum, we all deserve a receptive and present partner. Okay? Otherwise, what is the point? You have one lifetime. That's how a lot of stuff is out of need and lack and loneliness and sadness and desperation. And that's not to shame people. That's the way of the world, right? But that's why it's so important to know all of these things. And I am very grateful, as lonely as it can be. I am very grateful that I have been given the chance to learn these things and understand these things before getting married or having a child, or getting stuck in a cycle of you know with everything that. And that's not to say I haven't been through horrible relationships, but I'm saying that at this point, I had been entrapped in that so long, in those entanglements for so long, that, like, but nothing ever, like, I have free will, I have free choice. I have nothing tying me to a specific person that is holding me back from moving forward in my life. And that is, and I'm speaking to my own experience. That's not to say you can't move forward if you're in a bad situation, or that a child is a problem. Y'all know what I'm saying. Okay. The heart. Um, and also, having the ability that I was able, because I feel like when you're in those, like, you're having those mindsets, you don't get space and time to yourself to think and learn these things and process them. Just diving into all these things and having these conversations, like, I really wish people would take the time to show more care for themselves and one another. And and that's not to say I don't need to care for myself more, because I do. Okay? I do. So what I need is a receptive and present partner, right? But I also want to continue believing in myself and who I am and what I'm doing. So it said it was giving you different scenarios, and it was like whether you want to start over and be single and create your own life. Hello. Or whether you want to have a partner and get married, or whether you are together and want to move to the next level. And so it was like, well, I do want to be single and continue to move forward. I don't know, but that's hard to say though, right? Because like I do, if I could move, because what I need first and foremost is a safe, nurturing, stable home environment. Okay, that's what I need. And so that's why I don't want to say, oh, I want to, I want a partner, I want to date, I want this and that and the other, because first and foremost, I want to continue building what I'm building, doing what I'm doing, and get myself into a safe space. I stream my safe spaces, but that's literally to create a safe space for me. And that's why too, I call that in, like, I need a community that's just to witness and support and be there for me, you know? And so, you know, and that literally can be like just leaving a comment, literally just leaving a comment with emojis, like sending a heart me, following me on different, the different apps, joining the Discord, watching the YouTube videos I post, the TikToks, being an active member in the community, sending a meme and it doesn't have to be like you have to do every single thing, comment on every single thing, and like every single video, and constantly be in the light. Like, you're a human being with your whole own life going on. But it's just like having people that really listen or interact, are hearing what I'm saying, or, they like my art I post. Like, whatever the case may be. So, I need a supportive community of, the Won fam. We are Won fam in the world, like in the world and in here. In here. And I appreciate you guys for all the follows and the likes. Okay? I do. Because it's what's kept me going too with my streaming and going live. If I wasn't getting, there were months that I streamed every single day just talking to myself with one person or zero watching. And so that was really hard. It was hard to keep doing it because I was like, why am I still doing this? Like, I'm just talking to myself. But like I said, if you keep going in faith though, you start to see growth. You start to see whether, in yourself and in what you're doing. It's keeping that consistency and seeing other people, looking up to other people who are consistent in their actions and what they do. Like, that inspired me to keep going. Still does. And so, yeah, that's how much comments, follows, likes, shares, that's how much that can, that can do in someone's belief in themselves and what they do. Simple things. That was something that stuck out to me too. One day I had written this down, like, there was a lady, she had a cute little bike going on, and literally she was just in her own world, but she just looked over and smiled and kept going, and even that act, literally a simple smile can be an act of kindness. And I think we in this world, with everything again being so forceful and pushed and draining, like, it really gets taken out of context how much simple things, like, we all feel like we need to do more, or do big things, or we feel guilty, but it's like the simple signs, and those can do so much. And and I think it leaves more of a lasting impact too, because you never know when something's like the exact moment that someone needs that, whether that's colorful chalk drawings, okay, or someone out on a walk with their dog as well, or scooting around on the same street, or smiling at you on their ride, like, or ask, or minding their own business. If you know what I'm saying, like, if you're doing it, you know what I'm saying, like presence but not overbearingness. And that was another thing with learning all the space and the boundaries this year. It shows you though how much the world doesn't, like, how much people don't want us to know these things, because then we start really caring and respecting ourselves and seeing what we deserve and believing in ourselves. Um, so yes, what I need: supportive witnessing community, safe nurturing home space, and a receptive and present partner. And until I find a receptive and present one, I'm going to continue, well, no matter what, I'm going to continue taking care of me, focusing on what I enjoy and what I believe in, and continue building, my presence and my community and learning more things. All the good things, all the good things. But I don't want to play games or date just to date. Like, I take that very seriously, especially with, the high stakes I have over my life and the divine love and protection I have over my life. So that's why, I want someone who is also authentically themselves and kind and doesn't need approval or validation from others, or is trying to keep up with the Joneses, or is materialistic, or again, these are all like not big, like, they shouldn't be hard things, but with the way the world is, it makes it seem that way. So self-love, self-worth, self-respect, self-expression, consistency, community, healing, truth, and love. And also the aisle. Okay, so those are all the things we're calling in. Those are all the things we are calling into this fall. I'm calling in over myself and over my community. Okay? And then also the last thing, what I need, I need to have more creative and collaborative friendships. I need, I need to be able to have friendships with other creatives and people that can collaborate and have fun, and we can do content together or learn from one another or just support one. And I think that that's hard too, because uh still with all the healing going on and working on my vision and my belief in myself and confidence and all these things, It's also not getting overpowered, like, not letting myself fade into the background again, because it's always been me upholding somebody else. So learning that balance of being everything that I am, believing in myself, being all of me, and not shrinking or hiding or changing who that is, and having fun, equal, respectful relationships. That, yeah. I hope this, jogs something in y'all, whether that helps you think to ask yourself and check in with yourself on what you need in your daily life or in general, or focusing more, like just focusing more on being in tune and respecting your own needs. Okay. But if y'all want to share anything that you are manifesting under this Libra new moon, okay, go ahead and feel free to share. What are you calling in? And no shade if it is a relationship, because I've seen a lot, you know, that's what it is. I'm not here to, like, we all are having our own life experience. I'm just sharing with y'all, the things that I learn and see and what I take in. And what I'm experiencing each day and learning from it. And so, if anybody is in a relationship and manifesting moving forward, what does that mean for you moving forward? Because people all want different things too, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that everybody is loved and respected and, feels cared for. That is, again, it sounds like bare minimum, but these are the things that we deserve in this world, not the toxicity and the neglect and the lies and gaslighting. Okay. I need to sharpen this lip liner. Ooh. But thank y'all for listening and hearing me out. And I'm looking forward to having more conversations, though. I want that to be like a, I don't like the word ritual, but like I want that to be a thing we regularly do as a Won Tawnn community, as the Won fam. Ask ourselves, like, what do I need? What do I need? What do you guys need? What do we as a community need? Okay? Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for listening, for the comments. I appreciate you guys. We are going to get a little more fall girl vibey. Yes. Chat, I love y'all. I love y'all. I do. I do. I do. And this was a very good conversation on our needs and why our needs matter. Your needs matter. Our needs matter. We are loved and we matter. Thank you. I'm going to reset.